press record soon. All right. Well, hello and welcome everyone. Let's get started. I'm Cecile. I'm one of the co-founders of Round Sky, and thank you so much for joining us for our level 2 session info call. We've just wrapped up our 4th level 2 cohort, and I'm feeling really energized about this and that many people have reached out. So I'm particularly excited to be able to respond to the request and the need for this continued learning and community space. Just a little note, you'll notice we're recording this call so we can share it with other level 1 graduates who weren't able to make it to the call today. And as with every webinar, I like to share just a few updates, announcements about Round Sky. And Daniel, just a quick check. Are you screen sharing?
I am not. I'm having some technical difficulties.
All right, great. Should we give you a minute?
Yes, please. That'd be great. All right, let's try this. Share screen. There we go.
Yay. All right. You good to go, Daniel?
I'm good to go.
Excellent. Well, as most of you know us pretty well, so I'll share 2 things that we are collectively celebrating. 2023 actually marks Round Sky's 11th anniversary, and we're delighted to have completed the creation of our online learning platform, 4 new level 1 cohorts, 1 new level 2 cohort, and a launch of a new initiative for a global governance platform. So keep an eye out for all of this. So glad you could join us today to take a closer look at our level 2 course. So that leads me to the second piece I wanted to tell you. We are celebrating 184 participants in level 1, and it feels really meaningful and important to acknowledge this and know that learnings have been spread in implicit and explicit ways in many different spaces. So thank you so much for being a part of this community.
Wonderful. Today's agenda, I just wanted to say that we are recording the session. There's some folks that signed up specifically. They wanted to be here, but sometimes people can't make it. And so we'll send out the recording to them and to other folks who have graduated from the level 1 course who might be interested in learning more about this next step. So that's happening. And it's going to be a pretty interactive space. Put your questions in the chat box, as well as there'll be times for questions along the way. If you have any technical issues, let us know. We have almost an hour together, and we're going to get into some things. We're just going to be arriving here and doing a little introductions with each other. And then we'll get into kind of the big picture view of like what is the entire kind of like arc of the collab certification in total, and then diving into learning about the themes for the level 2 training and specifically. We'll do some group discussion about like what's next for you and your team, and then we'll have a few more kind of like key logistical details for this upcoming course and questions and answers. All right. So to get us going, I wanted to just do a little somatic arriving and grounding, etc. So as usual, like do what works for you to just arrive and be present. And I'll offer some suggestions that if they're helpful, take it in. And if not, do your own way of arriving. Yeah. All right. Yeah, you might, soften your gaze or close your eyes. And Yeah, today I feel drawn to like starting with the material objects around you. Like for myself, I'm put my hands on my desk. I don't know, maybe you've got your feet on the floor. Maybe there's some object in the your environment nearby that you just want to like lay your hand on or touch. Just noticing what's around you with your through touch, and also like with your eyes, just kind of gently kind of gazing around your space, taking in what's here. And yeah, and then noticing like, does that affect your body? Like just noticing like, oh, here I am. Does that affect your breathing? Or for me, it slows things down a bit. I feel like I want to take a deeper breath, and I do. A little sigh. Yeah. And once you feel settled and kind of like tapped into your environment, you can imagine like, oh, there's a few of us here on this call today, and there may be more watching it later. And it's a community of people. I think that's one thing that's felt really great to us over the last few years, is the sense of the building community of people who've been interested in this work. And so just kind of imagining in your own way, like, oh, there's all these people in the world that are either doing something like this, like who have studied collab in particular, or who are doing something similar, or like wanting to like create amazing cooperative workplaces. And they're all over the world, and just kind of like sensing, like with your imagination into like, oh wow, all those people, including those of us here on this call. All right, cool.
On
Well,
that
that
note, yeah, let's jump into some intros, and we'll start with Daniel and I, and then we'll invite each of you to also introduce yourselves. But it's great to see some of you that I know, and I'm so excited to meet those of you I haven't yet. I'm Cecile. My pronouns are she, her. And I'll just briefly share, since most of you know who I am, that I've been really honored and energized to spend the last few months in preliminary conversations with many colleagues around the possibility of a global governance platform. And I'm really excited to go on this level 2 journey with you all to bring more shared power to our world.
Well, thanks. Yep, Daniel here, he, him pronouns. I just wanted to say too that we're here in Vermont in the United States, which is the unceded territory of the Abenaki people, the local people here of many, many, many thousands of years are still here. So I acknowledge that I'm here as well, and happy to be in this beautiful land. At Round Sky, I've been doing a lot of instructing lately with both level 1 trainings, and Cecile and I just wrapped up a longer version of the level 2 training that was going for just recently wrapped up. I keep being struck by that sense of community, like I was calling out in the little somatic arrival piece, is that just keep being struck by the quality people that I get to hang out with in these trainings, and the kind of cool work that's happening, like so many really interesting projects, and all over the place, that it's just I just feel grateful for that sense of connection with you all. And I've really been diving deeper into somatics and my body, and how to integrate a more aliveness into my own life, and into the work that I do with others. So that's kind of where I'm at. And it's just like, if we done breakouts, so we're just together, and to just have you questions, we'll into the chat, and just share name, if you like, location, organizations you're connected with. If you took CLCP, when did you do that? And if there's any particular questions or topics you want to cover today, things really hot in your work life, and please share those. Just take like a minute each, something like that. Does anyone want to go? Is someone like ready to go? And if for some reason you just can't do this on out loud, then you can.
Hey, Daniel, you are breaking up pretty bad at this point. And your video is frozen. So I'll assume you need a little support. So I'll jump in and yeah, let's I think I put all the questions in the chat box. Let me know if you can't see those guys, but it looks like Daniel might be back again. But yeah, who might be ready to jump in with a little intro?
I can go first. I'm Arame. Pronouns are she, her. I'm located in Cleveland, Ohio. And the organization I'm connected with is Rust Belt Riders Composting. I took CLCP 1 over the spring, I think finishing up in May, maybe. And specific questions I'd love to get to today include whether there's still an option to take 2 and 3 simultaneously, and also what the impacts of the new structure are on being licensed to implement collab in other groups.
Nice. Thanks for those questions, Arame.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Francis? Are you available to chime in?
Right. So
Yeah.
I'm Francis from Ghana. I am from a mining engineering background. In fact, I took the CLCP level 1, I think around 2019. And I've been looking forward for the opportunity to move into the next stages. So I find it a privilege that today, I think yesterday I got a link and then I quickly hooked on to this webinar. So I'm privileged and I'm so grateful for being here today.
Hey, welcome, Francis. It's so good to see you and hear you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Kate, are you available?
Yes, I am. I'm in a hotel lobby, but I am available right now, so I can't speak too loud. I am currently in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada, but I am going to be moving out actually to the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, and my pronouns are she, her. And I took the spring 2023 course, and I'm still plugging away, working with Northwest Cooperative Development Center, hopefully moving towards working on some work with resident-owned communities, trying to work on so housing cooperatives. And I really don't necessarily have any specific questions. I'm just really kind of curious as to, I really enjoyed the ability to practice in a kind of safe space, with meeting facilitation, things like that, and wondering what, I guess, opportunities we'll have to do that as opposed to just talking about theory, but the actual practice together. Yeah, and I think that's it.
Great. Thanks, Kate.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Looks like we're going into a little bit. So let's get into some things. Cecile, were you able to kind of track the questions that we had so we can get back to this? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm going to share screen again and let's see here. This one. Okay, great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the new structure of of how we've imagined. In the past we imagined that the full certification was in 3 steps, 3 big steps in a sense, and we got a lot of feedback from folks who were thinking about taking the course. It was just the what was level 2 was just too big of a step. So it's doing too big of a time commitment, and we weren't getting much uptake. And also there's a way of being able to like pace it out and to take things at kind of at one's own speed, also was a factor. So we divided things up and made this little flow chart here. So it reads right to left, I mean left to right rather, and you know, all of you have started with CLCP 1, and in the new idea, you know, in this inflow chart, you could also start with personal development module 1. We wouldn't require like a prerequisite for that necessarily, right? And then the CLCP, kind of the core courses, you know, of the most of the conversations related to, you know, 5 out of the 7 conversations anyway, are really deeply covered in CLCP 1, 2, 3, and then wrapping everything up in CLCP 4. We split out personal development because we thought that could be really interesting for some folks who just wanted to focus on that, or wanted to focus on that at a particular time, and broke that into 2 chunks. The first being kind of an introduction and creating your own program, and really kind of creating your own working relationship with personal development tools, and then module 2 being about practicing that, doing more like a personal development support group plus discussion of how to implement it more in your teams, in their workplaces and stuff. And also like a special, you know, space for the interpersonal module. So that would be happening as an independent course as well. To make the whole thing more, well, and I'll also say, I'll go down to the community of practice here, which is we are planning to start the community of practice at last. We've been thinking about this for years, but there seems to be enough critical mass now of people who are interested in this that for any current or former students would be eligible to come to the community of practice. And so we're hoping to launch that in late October. And CLCP 4 is kind of the capstone course, which kind of wraps everything up. That would include things like either writing some case studies of implementation work that you've done, or having us, you know, or having kind of a mentorship relationship with us to like really kind of dial into the nuances of the actual on the ground practice that you've been able to do and to demonstrate, as well as some kind of a project, some kind of a final project. In support of things like the final project, we're encouraging people to take electives as well, other things related in some way to the work of cooperative leadership that we don't have an expertise in, and we'll be talking more about electives in the upcoming months, and what we think, some of the things that we think would be a good idea. But also, you'd be welcome to come to us and say, hey, I want to take this course. Would this count as an elective? And we would, evaluate on a case-by-case basis. But the whole sequence of things would take folks through a very professional level of being able to work with this material and take it into the world. We've always thought that the CLCP 4 graduates would be the trainers, would be the folks that would be professionally going out in the world and training other people in this method. And that at each level going up to that, more and more capacity to be able to bring that into your own organizations, and into your own kind of like private life, kind of like, or volunteer lives and other groups that you're associated with already, in a sense. So those are some thoughts.
Yeah, and I'll take a minute now and jump into a little bit more detail about the CLCP2 content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so for a broad overview, we have structured level 2 to support the increase of shared power through the integration of what you've learned in level 1. So we want to consolidate your learning, really be sure that you understand and have been able to apply those conversations in action. And with the goal of increasing your capacity for creating group alignment, and also beginning the journey with the purpose and the strategy conversation. So we'll be introducing both of those conversations and giving you opportunities to practice those both with study groups, which we'll talk about more in a minute, and with your organizations. So we'll be sharing both the details of the practices and tracking tools, examples in the online collab manual. And the idea is that you'll be practicing with your implementation team and come back with questions and comments so you and the whole cohort can learn from the experience. Along with those study groups for practice and the community of practice, you'll spend our course sessions debriefing and exploring the materials and the details of implementing this work in your organizations. So specifically, you'll be practicing and deepening implementation of the tools through being able to identify alignment needs in action. And yes, pairing alignment needs with the concrete tools to enable alignment. So that's both identifying the need and then knowing how to pair with what tools. Integrating with support what you've learned in level 1 in practice with your team. Building on your level 1 knowledge through the addition of purpose and strategy. And deepening your understanding and application of the core roles, as well as increasing your capacity to facilitate collective decisions. So those are what we're hoping you'll walk away from level 2 with. And let's take a moment and step back out at the big picture of the 7 conversations and ask, how do these all together support and individually support team alignment? So one of the first ways that the 7 conversations works to facilitate alignment is that we're making explicit and visible all the conversations and their outputs. This simple, subtle action takes the conversations that are already being held, adds collaborative process to enable shared power, and develops alignment by clarifying the outcomes of these conversations in ways that incrementally move the tensions of the whole team forward. The second way the 7 conversations work to support alignment is by clarifying that all these conversations are being held throughout the organization, perhaps in smaller portions or with content that nests within larger content, but nevertheless, it makes it evident that these conversations are helpful and essential in every scope, which enables decision-making, autonomy, agency in each and every scope and each and every role. So as level 1 graduates, you got the basics of the standard meeting practice and some of the details around the governance and operations conversations. But if you'd like the skill to walk into many organizational environments and be able to create alignment with wherever people are at, level 2 will increase your ability to identify and facilitate the purpose and strategy conversations, including how to adapt them and how to implement these practices to get generative outputs. So now let's get into what's happening in your teams a little bit more so you can relate it to this ecology of conversations and what we're offering in the course.
Yeah, actually, I want to just pause first and just see if there's any kind of just questions that folks have about the basic kind of like content of the course. We'll get into more logistical details after we chat a bit. But if there's any like key questions here that just something isn't making sense up to this point, we'd love to know and talk about that.
We can also probably pick up some of the questions, Arame, that you asked about whether we can take level 2 and 3 simultaneously, et cetera. Would you want to clarify anything in there, Arame, in terms of where the question's coming from for yourself?
Yeah, my understanding was that in the previous structure, it was possible to take level 2 and 3 simultaneously. I think that was an option in the Google form, and I'm just not sure if that would still be an option or what the total time it would take to complete both would be now.
Right. Short answer, no. That was a brainstorm we had. First of all, the level 2 and 3 in that old document was what would have been like levels 2, 3, and 4 all together at the same time in this idea, and at that time in level 3, anyway, just to say that no, that wouldn't really work because the final level is more about the practicum mentorship, getting hours and getting documentation of like work done, things like that, which certainly some of the work that you're doing now could count towards that when you get to that point, right? Like the kinds of implementation work that you're actively doing now at our Rust Belt Riders. it would make great material for a case study, for instance, that could be very helpful for completing what's now the level 4 course. But yeah, we've broken it down into into slightly smaller chunks, and so it's no longer really possible to do kind of both the mentorship and implementation practice thing at the same time as the other.
I would also just add a little clarity that in the former level 2, everything was sequential. And so we started with purpose and then went to business model and then to strategy and so on. So because the material somewhat builds on itself, some of the outputs of purpose really feed into, business model, strategy, et cetera. In this new model, we're still sort of stacking them sequentially so that you can get the benefit of that. But I would also add that if you're particularly interested in being able to offer this work as a professional to clients, be happy to have a conversation with you to figure out if there's a way for us to support you being able to do that as soon as you feel ready, and lead up and contribute to your final level 4 certification. If that's something you're interested in, happy to talk with you about it.
Cool, thank you. And then just what is the timeline then for completing level 2 and then level 3 in the new format?
Yes. We'll run level 2. We'll run level 2 now in the fall, and if we have enough interest, we'll run level 3 in the winter. And beyond that, we haven't started to plan. But in general, the idea would be that we run, at least two or three level 1s every year, probably 1 to 2 level 2, 3, and 4s every year. Although we probably won't be demand for an actual level 4 for another year or so.
Yeah. And I would just add that if it's probably going to take about the same rough amount of time that level 2 did, which is a 9 to 10 month program to complete all the content. And that's if you're sort of doing it one right after the other. Did that answer your question, Arame?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, wanted to just to have a little bit of a discussion here, and maybe we will. Sometimes it's easier to talk without the instructors here. Maybe we will just still do breakout groups and to put the 3 of you in a breakout group for a moment, just to discuss for a moment, like, how could your team use more alignment? What kinds of tensions, in a sense, are present around alignment in your organization? And what new cooperative capabilities would you like to develop for yourself? And actually, forget the breakout rooms. Why don't we just do a round? We'll just do a round of sharing that here in the main group and just see what folks say. And how about that for a plan?
Sounds good. I'm dropping the questions in the chat box, so if you want a visual reminder of the prompts, but yeah, and why don't we go in order that we checked in? So I think that was Arame, Francis, and then Kate.
Cool. I don't think that I'm really ready to answer these questions because we're still making a lot of changes related to more like level 1 stuff and then like some other stuff we've been integrating. And I feel like that's still kind of settling and it's not really clear what else is going to sort of come after that dust settles in terms of more alignment, tension still present, and what capabilities seem like most relevant after that.
Nice. Also wanted to welcome Latona. Thanks for joining us, Latona. We are partway through and doing a little round to get to know each of the folks who are here, their teams and what their needs are currently. So yeah, really glad you could make it.
These are the questions again. Oops. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Kate. Yeah, certainly reach out to Cecile and I. I don't know, neither of us is specifically point person on that. Just reach out. There'll be email that we send out after this. You can respond to that and get back in touch with us, or just reach out, with the emails that you have. I'm happy to address more questions as needed. Cool. Yeah. All right. So Francis, how about you? Do you have any thoughts about where your team is at and what kind of alignment needs you have, or what kind of cooperative capabilities you'd like to build for yourself?
All right. After I've gone through, in fact, during the period when I was going through the level 1 course, I was actually taking it step by step with my team, particularly the 4 that I draw close to me to work as the management team. And then they spiral things down to their respective teams on what the core mandate or the core business focus that we have, going through the various the purpose that we have set for ourselves as a business, and then the model by which we operate. Then each unit comes up with its own strategy, but then the overarching strategy that we have intended, we try to shape it so that at least people's input will be carried through. And then our structures and how to, the hierarchies and the authorities, the levels that we operate from. So it has actually helped us at now. Currently, we are doing a couple of personal development programs, putting some of the staff into training. As I speak, 2 of my staff are under sponsorship to further their capability in terms of education, so that my finance manager and then my HR manager, they are all on courses now to bring themselves up stage, so that, and for us, for myself as an executive or maybe a business owner, I'm also looking into a very big picture, because it's not that small business that we are looking at, but we are looking at growing it. I'm looking at growing it. So currently we have is a group of companies that has been registered, and the starting point, which one I call the flagship, is what we are using now by expanding the other subsidiaries that we are building to be able that, and then we are building it from the original flagship business. So the core team that we had at the beginning, some of them are undergoing training, and they will become unit heads, so that what we have, the culture that we are building, will run down through from the top down through all the subsidiaries. So I think that is one of the reasons why when I saw this mail, and Cecil, I apologize sincerely to Rebecca. I've seen her mail severally, but maybe I haven't responded, running around. So
No
maybe
worries.
it will be like, because it came from Cecil, I responded. I'm so my apologies for that.
No worries at all. That's great. I'm so glad you made it.
It'll be super fascinating to hear more over time, Francis, about how you apply these tools in such a large and kind of complex environment. So thanks for giving us a little taste of.
Thank you.
This.
Thank you.
I also want to acknowledge
welcome,
Lars.
We're just doing a so Cecile, could you count the questions in again?
Yes.
Because Lars won't be able to see the questions. We're just doing a little round of just like what kind of things, how could your team use more alignment, or what's that like right now in your organization or in yourself, like what capacities do you want to be working on. Latona, if you want to speak, you'd be kind of up next, and then Lars would be after you.
Believe that Latona might not be able.
Hi,
Good.
Hi. Yeah, I can't speak for long, sorry, but I will say, so I did CLCP 1 in the spring, and many of my fellow member owners of our cooperative, Birthmark Doula Collective, have done it. And that's actually not why I was interested in learning more about this opportunity. I'm actually transitioning out of my role as a member owner at Birthmark, and starting a new position next month as an executive director of a national reproductive justice nonprofit. And I am very interested in bringing some of the cooperative leadership principles into this new organization that is structured very hierarchically. And I think, I know for me that that's probably going to be one of my biggest challenges, is actually moving from a space where there has been so much intentionality around building cooperative leadership structures to an organization that, while the vision is similar and aligned, the actual organizational structures are not. And yeah, it's going to be a big challenge for me. I'm excited about it, but I think I'm going to need a lot of tools. So briefly, that's why I called in today.
Wonderful. Thanks, Latona. That's great. And that struggle of going between environments, that's really real. And yeah, so that's great. Thanks for sharing that.
And congratulations, Latona. It sounds very, very exciting, and I'm excited for what you could bring to this organization. So looking forward to more.
Thank you.
And Lars, welcome. We had done introductions, so if anything you want to say just personally is fine too, but just anything about these kind of questions about how you're thinking about your team alignment and your own capacities right now.
I mean, just for the introduction piece, I'm Lars Ordegren. I was a founder of California Solar Electric Cooperative. We didn't start off as a co-op. We converted into one. I sat in the general manager seat for a while, and realized that wasn't really the best seat for me to be in, and moved out of that seat. We have a kind of interim general manager now. And we've really hit just kind of an interesting time with solar in California, where it doesn't look like it's causing us to really like change and adapt and grow. At the same time that we're watching kind of our market really shrink up. And so we're actually looking at the idea now of having a general manager less co-op, about not having a single person in charge. And so we're looking a lot more about that. How do we kind of delegate those spheres of power within the organization, and what does accountability look like? When you have a worker owner board, and granted, it's like one of the hard pieces of worker co-ops is you have your board that is doing it on top of their regular jobs. So it's like a something that gets a little bit more of a side hustle level of energy at best. And so how do we kind of create that structure that we can still, where we can really leverage that group decision making, group input into decisions without exhausting everyone with those decisions, and have that accountability. And when I did the first session, it seemed like it was like, oh, this model would work much better, and kind of like some more worker co-op, more in the worker co-op startup space, and it's kind of hard to put that model in when you have kind of a more hierarchical structure. But yeah, so I think a lot of it for me is wanting to look at it again with kind of a fresh set of eyes, and looking at more explicit power for individual teams, and how that might look as we kind of start. We've gone from, like, we were 50 people a month ago, we're more like 40 people now. It's a possibility we'll be more like 30 people around the beginning of the year. And so we have a lot of responsibilities that are getting kind of shed off on those other leaders, which really kind of diminishes their ability to be leaders, because they don't have the capacity to do it. So kind of looking at that as a possibility of some framework as we kind of restructure.
Yeah, fascinating. That's so interesting. I mean, it's the all transitions. I hear a theme here. For like a whole organization transition, that needs it, and there's external pressures, and then Latona going into a whole new like situation that's just totally, anyway, and Francis talking about the hierarchy in their companies, but how to spread like cooperative, principles through that. Anyway, so interesting to and Arame is also in like this, big like really trying to embed more of these practices more deeply into their organization. So yeah, it's really fascinating to hear the different kind of facets of how a cooperative mindset can be applied in different contexts, and what makes that really actually effective for each. Yeah, so thanks all for sharing that. That's great. So do you have any other reflections you want to make on that, on hearing from everyone?
I'm feeling excited by all your transitions, and I just want to acknowledge that they can also be challenging. And so, very much looking forward to supporting you all with these exciting new aspects of your organizations. Even the downsizing aspect is potentially quite exciting, because it's an opportunity to like reshift how and what you're doing. And so I hope it can provide some actual like uplift to your process as well, Lars. Yeah.
Thank you all. Any last, anything that got jogged loose by any of those reflections? We have another minute or two if anyone wants to share anything or reflect on anything we've heard from folks.
This is Latona. I would just say to Lars that my co-op Birthmark Duo Collective, we had a financial crisis over a year ago, and went from about 50 folks in our collective down to 20, and then built up a little bit. But that definitely was extremely difficult, but we did really double down on cooperative principles during that time, and it really did elevate the leadership of all of our member owners. So good luck with that. But
Yeah, for sure. I do think that like this is like the brilliance. I mean, we transitioned to being a worker cooperative like 2 months before COVID hit, which in a way was like the worst timing, in a way was the absolute best timing. And that when you have people that are already bought into it, and you put a crisis in front of them, it's a great time to use that brain trust that we have with all these people, you know, everyone's dedication in a way that would never work in a traditional business.
Yeah. Yeah, nice.
Well, I'm going to share my screen again, so I can figure out which one. Here we go, this one. And let's start talking just a little bit about the logistics of this next phase for level 2. Applications are due Friday, September 1st. Although I suppose that's Labor Day weekend. If someone can't get to it till the end of that weekend, we aren't going to be looking at them over the weekend. So anyway, September 1st, we'll call it September 1st. We don't know the exact time and day yet, but we will be starting the course the week of October 2nd. And it'll have 11 sessions with Thanksgiving week off. And so that'll put us ending in the week of December 18th. Cecile's copied a few links in there for the page, the information page on the website about the training and the application. I guess in terms of applications, like given that we're thinking about certification slightly differently, we're opening this up to everyone who's taken level 1. And Cecile and I, as the instructors, will put our heads together and just like either say yes, join the course, or if we need to, we'll schedule an appointment to like talk things through. We'll schedule an interview or something. But for the most part, you'll just hear back from us about whether or not it's a good fit. Seems like a good fit for the training for this fall. And I think I was going to say something else, but I don't know what it was. So let's take a look at what the structure of the course will look like. Cecile.
Yoke. Yeah, so in level 2, we've adapted the structure to include a few more formats for learning and practicing these tools. In short, we'll have whole cohort meetings like you had in level 1, also study groups for practicing and digging into the material further, forums, and the community of CoLab community of practice sessions, which are open to all CoLab students. Each of these meetings are roughly 2 hours in length, except the community of practice, which is only 1 hour. And the study groups are used for you to work through the materials in a small group setting, practice via role plays. You'll have specific assignments for those study groups to role play the content that you've been taught in a previous session. And the forums and the community of practice are available to go deeper into your questions and the specifics of your situations. And of course, the CoLab manual online provides you with immediate access to all the CoLab practices. Francis, since you took CLCP, you took level 1 prior to us having the online manual, I just want to highlight it's a new way that the learning materials are available, which I find it's a lot easier to access than the previous ways we had it. Yeah, so that's a little bit about the structure.
And there's the homework. I don't know did you mention that already? I love where we're here.
Yeah. The homework, let's see. We were going to talk about the implementation a little bit before we got to the homework.
Oh yeah, so I'm not going to talk about the I'm not going to turn the slides off, but yes, implementation, like the key point of these trainings is being able to practice, right? And so ideally you would have a practice team to be trying things out with. But you can also try things out in your study groups with demo scenarios. But certainly a very key part of this is implementing the work and trying things out with people, as in level 1, but even more so, as we go through these more advanced level CoLab trainings. And then we have homework. No, that was the homework. Then we have the homework. Okay, sorry, strong slide. So the homework there'll be some videos and readings, obviously the practicing, and the forums for you to document what you've done about your practices and kind of reflect and write about those and share with each other. And in terms of time commitment, it's the sessions are 2 hours a week. The study groups are just in line with that. It's not a special different kind of a thing. It's just like some weeks it'll be a full cohort session. Other weeks it'll be it'll be primarily like all breakout group basically, or depending on to focus in on your study group. And yeah, and however long it takes to do implementation practice with your team, it's just going to vary so much. So yeah, so at least 3 hours a week, we'd say, in terms of a time commitment for the course. And then back to you, Cecile.
Yes, so a little bit about the cost of the course. We've created these pricing tiers, which hopefully will work to make it more accessible to you. The $2,200 is our redistribution cost. It's for those who have the financial means to not only cover the actual cost of the course, but contribute towards making it accessible for someone else. And by choosing this tier, you'd be supporting others who don't have the same financial privileges and ensuring that the course remains available to a diverse group of learners. $1,800 is the actual cost. This is the standard tier, which represents the true cost of delivering the course, ensuring quality content and instructor compensation, maintenance of the online platform, et cetera, et cetera. And by choosing this tier, you're covering your costs of the course without additional support. And then the $1,400 is for scholarship level, as we recognize everyone's financial journey is a little different. It's for those who are passionate about learning, but may be facing some financial constraints. And it's the reduced cost made possible by the contributions of those in the redistribution tier. We'll mention we do accept payment plans and scholarship requests. And also, if you happen to be a Vermont resident, you may qualify for a grant through VSAC. Let us know and we'll get you more info. And of course, we want to support you to make it happen. So we'd love to see, we have this referral policy that if you are able to refer someone, that puts 20% of the paid tuition from anyone that you refer towards your course fee.
Right, generally those people that have taken level one have recommended it to other people, and we track that as best we can, that may be available as a resource for some of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Super. So I think we're ready for any remaining questions. And Arame, I wanted to just circle back. I know you had a question about practice, and I'm wondering if we've answered it so far, or if you want to dig in a little further on that one.
I think that most of my remaining questions relate to like implementing it, which you mentioned. I could reach out to you to talk more about afterwards, so I might just do that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Happy to do that with you. Anybody else with other questions? Yes.
I have a question. Do you have I'm wondering if you have some kind of like a big overview slide deck that you can send me for, we're having like a board and leadership team discussion tomorrow where we're just kind of trying to get everyone's minds the same way about what possibilities we might have in a general manager less structure. And if you guys had some kind of a overview slide deck that I could do, just like an introduction to how that works for the team, it would be really useful. I don't know if you have something like that.
We do have, maybe. I mean, we are for the team itself, probably like are you thinking like specifically to the content of like this level 2 course, or are you thinking for in general, like for more training for your organization in general, in some
I think
to be TBD, like exactly what?
Yeah, like if you had a slide deck, if you were at a co-op conference and you guys were saying, hey, get trained up in this model, and this is the general pieces of how it works, and this is what it would make a difference to your co-op or your organization. Do you have anything like that
Maybe we've got tons and tons of different kind of presentations, but not exactly that, like so.
Yeah. Lars, one of the things about conferences is that they never want you to do that. So we often are presenting like one small piece, like a decision-making process.
Yeah, or even just like the idea of a modeling of distributed power, or I mean, you kind of know a little bit of where I'm going with this, but
Yeah.
I just want to see if you guys had any resources that you could give me other than my mouth yapping, which
yes.
isn't.
We'll look into that. We'll get back to you. When do you need it by?
Tomorrow morning, ideally, but
right, of course.
But
no
we're in different time zones, so by noon tomorrow. Yeah,
we can find something that seems appropriate in the few minutes as we're wrapping up this call. We'll certainly send it to you.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
And one thing is coming to mind, which is we have a case study that might be helpful. Nice way to ground in things. So we'll be back in touch, Lars. Thank you for that question.
Great.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're about to wrap up for our call, but if there are any other questions we want to get, or comments that folks have, certainly really happy to hear those now.
Oh, okay. So Cecil and Daniel, thank you for the session and the information and everything. My question that I want to ask, I have taken part in CLCP1. I'm very, very happy to get on board for 2, 3, and maybe 4 as time will avail itself. Now, I want to bring a couple of my staff in, particularly about 3 or 4 of my management team members. They have been benefiting from what I've been trickling down to them, but they haven't taken the course as it is. Where will they start? What will be the cost? And then how do we integrate it in a way that to get to a point that myself and all of them will be on the same cohort?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
I mean, we do sometimes it depends, like so we're also running our level 1 course again this fall. So if you wanted to talk with us about having some of your staff join that level 1 course, that would be the first place to start. Wouldn't hurt. It's been a bunch of years. Wouldn't hurt for you to redo that course yourself, and we can certainly. I'm sure we can work out some kind of a deal on cost and stuff like that. So that wasn't, since you're doing it a second time or something, right? The other option that we do with groups often is that if they have a large enough group and it makes sense cost effectively, we can do a custom training, like a level 1 training for a whole team, like just for an intact team, instead of like open where people are coming to us from all over the place. We can do a team training of the level 1 material. Like in fact, Arame has set that up for their organization. So I just started yesterday, with there was some 10 other members of Arame's co-op to do training with them in a custom, just their own intact little group going through the trainings all together. So all those things we could talk about, Francis, and happy to get back to you and figure out what makes sense.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. So I will drop that one and then say that, look, I will get in touch with Cecil and Daniel, yourself, with my BDM, and then we'll discuss it and know the number of people that we bring in on call, and then we get a customized one. So maybe we will rerun the level, and all of us will come to level 2, 3, and move on from there. I'll quickly get that one done. So maybe Cecil, you maybe drop me a mail on that score.
Yes.
And then I'll get my BDM to pick it up from there, and then we can register for that kind of training.
Sweet. Cool. Sounds great, Francis. I'll be in touch.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, Thanks, everyone. Any last comments from anyone? I don't know. Should we do a closing round or anything like that? We just this is just kind of it. A few folks have had to jump. Arame, any last
Just Arame and myself. So
Yeah.
everybody's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all my questions for now. I will follow up with you, and just thanks for taking the time to just do this little info session. It's really helpful.
You're
welcome. Thanks
It's
for
great
being
to
here.
see you. Yeah. All right. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.